All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the world of consumer financial protection. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Sounds a little dry, right? But trust me, it's actually this fascinating dance between two really powerful agencies that sit at the very heart of our financial system.
See, this isn't just a story about government agencies and regulations. It's really about a partnership, one that's designed specifically to protect your money. We're talking about a feedback loop of oversight and enforcement that ultimately leads to real reform.
So, let's meet the two main players here. On one side, you've got the OCC, that's the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Think of them as the supervisors on the inside, working within the banks, making sure they're playing by the rules. And on the other side, that's the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're like the public defenders, the advocates for borrowers like you and me on the outside. Totally different angles, but they're shooting for the exact same goal.
Okay, so for any team to actually work, they need a common playbook, right? You've got the OCC inside the castle walls, and the CFPB is out there listening to the people. So how in the world do they get on the same page about what's fair and what's not? Well, it all starts with a shared language.
And it all comes down to this one supercritical acronym, UDAP. You're going to want to remember that one. It stands for Unfair, Deceptive, or Abusive Acts and Practices. The CFPB is the agency that actually sets the standard. They define the rules of the road for what fair play looks like, and then the OCC helps enforce them. This common ground is absolutely fundamental to how they work together.
And this, right here, brings us to the most powerful part of their whole partnership. This is where all that theory gets put into practice. It's the moment where you, the consumer, actually step into the picture and become the engine that drives this entire process forward.
And that's a totally fair question, isn't it? It's so easy to feel like your one voice just gets lost in the static. But in this system, it's not just noise.
Because that complaint portal at the CFP, it's not just some digital suggestion box. It's a highly sophisticated regulatory radar. Your individual complaint is like a single dot, a blip on the screen. But when enough of those blips start popping up in the same area, well, they create a pattern that regulators simply cannot ignore.
So here's exactly how that works. It starts with one person, maybe someone like you, filing a complaint. Then, the CFPB's data nerds spot a pattern. That data gets shared, which then triggers an examination by the OCC. And finally, the OCC goes inside the bank to enforce compliance and fix the problem at the source. It's a direct line from a single voice to a system-wide change. Pretty cool, huh?
But, this whole feedback loop sounds great in theory. Let's make it a little more concrete. This process has had real-world consequences that have totally changed how banks operate. And we can look at a classic example, one you've probably even experienced yourself.
This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it. It's a real frustration that so many of us have felt. You make one tiny mistake and boom, you're slammed with a cascade of fees that feel completely out of proportion. This is exactly the kind of grievance that fuels the entire system.
And this just perfectly shows the power of that regulatory radar we were talking about. That one complaint, joined by thousands and thousands of others just like it, created a pattern that was impossible to miss. And it put bank overdraft practices squarely in the crosshairs, leading directly to OCC scrutiny and eventually huge changes across the entire industry.
So we've seen the players, we've seen the playbook, and we've seen the whole process in action. And when you put it all together, what you get is a really powerful partnership. This isn't about two agencies just duplicating each other's work. It's about them amplifying each other's unique strengths to create something way more effective.
And their collaboration is, well, it's incredibly deep. It goes way beyond just sharing complaint data. They work together on enforcing those UDAP standards. They conduct joint reviews on fair lending, coordinate on new rules. They even have official channels to refer violations to each other. It's a fully baked, integrated system of oversight.
So really, the key thing to take away is this perfect balance. You've got the OCC providing that internal supervision, making sure banks are compliant from the inside out. Then you have the CFPB providing that public advocacy, making sure the consumer's voice is heard loud and clear from the outside in. And honestly, one just can't be as effective without the other.
And that's the bottom line. That's what it's all about. This entire complex dance between agencies, data, and rules, it exists for one simple reason: to give us sharper oversight of our financial institutions and, most importantly, stronger, more meaningful protections for you.
But the story of how these agencies work together doesn't stop there. Next time, we're going to explore how that collaboration shifts, moving from protecting the individual consumer to making sure the entire financial system itself is resilient.
We'll be looking at the OCC, the FDIC, and the Federal Reserve. You're not going to want to miss that one.